everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another royal news video. So lots of stuff is coming out this week. They haven't arrived in Nigeria at the time of filming this. This is purely all to do with some of the stories that have come out regarding the Invictus. Obviously Harry's pushing another victim narrative story. It's getting a bit sad and a bit tired for a man that is practically 40 years old. Every time he comes to the UK, there's got to be some sort of family drama. Whilst I do believe that the media are absolutely at the forefront of stirring the pot, I also believe that Harry's PR and sources from Montecito happily push these narratives as well. So let's get started with the first one. Harry is forced to stay in a hotel. Well, who can he blame for that? At the end of the day, he's betrayed his family over and over and over, from revealing private conversations, text messages. But think about the palace residences. In Netflix, we saw that they had smuggled a photographer in and they had taken photographs inside palace residences without the permission and without anyone's knowledge. Massive security breach for his family. In Spare, Harry gave quite a few details to do with the inside layouts of various residences, even saying you take 3 steps left, you go down the corridor to the right, and then it's this room. You know, this was a massive breach, and I remember the ex-head of security speaking out and saying that he is endangering his family's life. Harry will scream from the rooftops about his privacy, his security, but he does not think twice about endangering his own family. This became more of a concern because it wasn't not long after Harry and Meghan had done this "oh, woe is us," the Oprah scandal, that the Queen had had someone with a crossbow climb up into Windsor trying to take her out. And then Harry thought nothing of revealing more details and photographs inside palace residences less than 2 years after that incident had happened. Now, it's not just Harry's family that have distanced themselves from him, even Harry's old friends. Harry was incredibly popular before he met Meghan. He had lots of different social circles. He had his old Etonian friends. He had friends from the army. He had quite a large number of people that whenever Harry was out, he was just always the life and soul of the party. When he started dating Meghan, that all started changing. We were having stories come out where Harry had just cut off his friends. He'd changed his telephone number and not told them. He apparently wasn't allowed to go hunting anymore. He wasn't allowed to go drinking. Meghan was making sure that he cut off his friends that she deemed bad influences. So, of course, when it came round to the royal wedding, the few friends that were invited to that, even his best friend Tom Inskip, were not even allowed to attend the after party. Who does that? Who invites someone to their wedding during the day, but then turns around and said, you can't come to the party afterwards where everybody will be having fun? Considering Harry and Meghan Meghan gate crashed Tom Inskip's wedding in Jamaica, I found that particularly spiteful. And if I'd have been Tom Inskip, I would have turned around and told them to shove that wedding invite. But it would definitely seem that Harry doesn't have many offers from anyone that he was close to pre-Meghan. But apparently, as we're told over and over and over, Prince William is the problem. Harry made it known publicly that the King had refused his olive branch to attend the Invictus service, as did every other family member except the Spencers. Well, of course the Spencers were invited and they were happy to attend because Harry hasn't spent the last 5 years trashing them. But if Harry is so close to the Spencers, isn't it funny that they were stuck behind unknown celebrities at Harry and Meghan's wedding? It would seem that the Spencers are rolled out occasionally for a photo op and to possibly further stick the middle finger to his father. Now, as we know, the King was hosting a garden party at the same time as the Invictus service, and this is one of the many reasons whilst he was unable to attend. This was a quick pit stop for Harry before embarking on his holiday, and I will make that very clear, to Nigeria. And of course, the King has only recently been told by his doctors he is okay to take on more engagements. So I'd imagine that his diary is jam-packed. But the stories that came out thick and fast were the King snubs Harry, King too busy to meet his son. Well, first of all, you think, well, how did they all collectively know at the same time that the King was going to be unavailable to meet Harry? Well, Harry decided to run to the media and to tell them through his spokesperson. In response to the many inquiries and continued speculation on whether the Duke will meet with his father whilst in the UK this week, it unfortunately will not be possible due to His Majesty's full programme. Continued speculation, many inquiries. Who cared? I know that I certainly didn't. That's between him and his father. But Harry to double down on the fact that the king is definitely at fault and the reason why they did not meet. The spokesperson continues, the Duke, of course, is understanding of his father's diary of commitments and various other priorities. I love that the Duke, of course, is understanding that his father, the king, might be too busy. He has got other priorities. That, to me, is an underhanded dig, one that we have become so accustomed to with Harry and Meghan when they get their spokesperson to come out and put these statements. Mean and nasty daddy won't let him stay in the castle or even meet with him. The fact is, he went to the media and it shows that he is not slowing down with his manipulative games, trying to turn the public still against the king. Now, as for the king, diary commitments or no diary commitments, why would he go out of his way to meet with Harry? Look what happened last time. Harry, out of nowhere, decided that he was coming to the UK. He was coming ready or not. The king had to delay his helicopter taking him to Balmoral. This was just after he'd announced publicly that he was starting his own cancer treatment. Harry arrived. He admittedly only got about 12 minutes. He'd apparently kicked off and said that he didn't want Camilla in the room. He wanted to speak to his father privately. Access denied. But then less than 24 hours, Harry was in Canada, in Whistler, giving an interview to Good Morning America. Harry had come for content. Luckily, the king was a bit wiser to it. Perhaps because Harry had done something very similar to Queen Elizabeth when he had come over, I think it was 2022, and then less than 24 hours, he was given an interview to USA Today with Hoda Kotb saying that how he is the only person that she trusts and he's concerned that she doesn't have the right people around her. Various news sources have come forward to say that Harry actually put in a very similar list of demands about meeting his father and as to who could be present. Obviously, he doesn't want Camilla anywhere near his father because she's definitely not going to put up with any of his BS. But of course, it's highly suspicious that Harry has suddenly decided now on this quick pit stop tour that he wants to see his father right before he flies to Nigeria. The King and Queen are not daft, nor in fact is the British High Commission, because Dr. Richard Montgomery, the British High Commissioner in Nigeria, has spoken out and made it very, very clear that Harry and Meghan are not there on any official business. They are visiting in a private capacity, not an official one. The British High Commission is not involved in arranging or facilitating their programme. And just to hit it home that little bit further, they are not representing the work of His Majesty's government on this visit. Ding dong, clear as a bell. If Harry and Meghan do anything stupid on this tour or say anything daft, it's got nothing to do with the UK government, or in fact, His Majesty the King. We've only got to look back at when Harry went to Canada and had a meeting with the First Nations to say that he was going to resume discussions over the Crown's commitment to the Indigenous people of Canada. He had no authority, he certainly has no education, and he had no endorsement to do so from his father or indeed the Canadian government. Dangerous waters and lines must be drawn. If Harry had visited the king and then directly gone to Nigeria, anything he said or did, including Meghan, could look as though that he does have the king's endorsement and support. The timing of suddenly wishing to see his father was highly suspicious to absolutely everybody, and I'd imagine the king himself. Harry is a multi-millionaire who does not think twice about hopping on a private jet and chartering it to go to a film premiere, to go to a polo match, to go see various concerts, or to even go pick up random awards. Harry could have at any point arranged to come over to see his father during these last few months since the king announced that he had cancer if he was concerned, and he could have done it at a time that was suitable for His Majesty, not when it's suitable for Harry. As usual, it had to be rammed in, and of course we then had the victim narrative and the tailspin of drama that always seems to accompany Harry, no matter how brief his visit is to the UK. Now, the media has even managed to spin a false narrative that's managed to include Prince William in some of this drama as well. Apparently, the King deliberately upset Harry by announcing that Prince William will be taking over one of Harry's military roles in a further apparent snub. Prince William will join his father on a joint engagement next week, where he is to be made Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps, the regiment Harry toured Afghanistan with and was part of until leaving in 2014. Harry was a captain in the army. Harry has never been Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps. Add this to the fact that Harry chose to quit. They did Megxit, they launched it on the royal family with 10 minutes notice, and that's only because Dan Wootton was going to blow their cover. Harry was the one that chose to leave, and he did it in such a spiteful way, a quick kind of smash and grab, I'm going to take everything. They gave a list of demands, but they were clearly told that you will lose your charities, your patronages, and all of your military roles. Harry was the one that made it abundantly clear he didn't want to be trapped like his father and his brother. Now, as for the timing of this announcement, it was apparently staged to cause hurt to Harry. Of course it is, because that's all the royal family live to do these days, just upset Harry. The thing is, it's not a new appointment for Prince William. King Charles held the position of Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps for 31 years. In August last year, he said that he would then be handing it down to the new Prince of Wales. Next week is the official ceremony. So it's absolute codswallop. There you go, there's a British saying. Absolute codswallop that this was timed in some way to be spiteful and petty towards Harry. It is quite normal for the royal family's diary to be known a week before they do certain big engagements and events. This is quite an important engagement, the fact that it's also joint with father and son. Not everything is about Harry. Harry wanted his freedom and now he's got it. It's just unfortunately for him, he hasn't got anyone to spend it with outside of staff and Meghan, and occasionally his lawyer. Harry cut a pretty sad figure as he got out of his car and walked the steps of St Paul's Cathedral. It was just Harry and his shadow, and there was something very poignant about that, in my opinion. That is Harry's new life. Rather than being surrounded by friends and family members, he was instead all on his lonesome. So yes, of course, Harry got there to a nice reception. I'm not saying people didn't cheer for him, but let's not pretend that that was a big rapturous applause, that there weren't people booing. One lady went out of her way to make sure that Harry heard her boos. For any of you that might know who that woman is, please someone buy her a drink. She definitely made sure Harry heard that. Now, after the service, possibly because he heard that woman's boo, Harry decided he wasn't going to come out of the front entrance and risk, I guess, more boos, but he came out of the back exit. Now, I think, as do many other people, that this is because there had been a careful number of people hand-selected so Harry could go over and greet them. You see Chris Sanchez, his bodyguard, point to Harry where to start, and you can see this is closed off from the general public. It's just the media, probably no doubt some Netflix crews, and then, as I said, carefully selected people. Even body language experts have picked up, even though despite these people had been carefully selected and there were quite clearly no one that was going to boo in his face, you could tell that Harry wasn't his usual relaxed self. I do think that Harry must miss this life. I do believe that, if anything, it was the one thing he was good at, wasn't he? He used to be likeable, whether that was because he was just a completely different person or it was just a very carefully crafted image that the public had been fed for years. I don't believe that Harry is this dark, evil person. I do believe that he has been manipulated and all of his worst traits have been nurtured. I don't think that Harry is very happy. I think that he's angry a lot of the time because he knows he's made mistakes and he's stuck in a situation. But that is where any sort of sympathy that I might have for him ends, because I think about what he actually did to his family, to the Queen, to Prince Philip, to Catherine, to absolutely everybody who he has betrayed, and even his father. Even this latest stunt, he suddenly wants to come see his father, and I think, as do a lot of people as well, that it was purely so he could bolster his image right before he flies out to Nigeria for this fake royal tour. Now, before I finish off the video, let's talk about a story that has surfaced that sadly, guys, I think that it is bollocks. And this is because it's to do with Mike Tindall reportedly taking a very, very prominent position within the Invictus Games. Apparently, Harry is furious because Mike Tindall has been given a high position. And I'm sorry, a few royal commentators have spoken about it. A few media outlets have run with this story now. But it all started with an article that came out with Mike Tindall looking rather dashing, I might say, in some army camo gear. This goes back a few weeks ago when Mike Tindall took part with the Ministry of Defence's latest safety campaign called Respect the Range. It's all to do with members of the public that love trekking across the countryside, me and the dogs and the hubby included. I should have put the hubby before the dogs then. That was a slight slip. But no, seriously, we go walking across lots of places. They were talking about Salisbury Plain, which is active military training ground that the public can access. So Mike was there driving some tanks around, and it was all to do with public safety. It's shared space, but please do err with caution. Now, not long after this had been revealed, and we have photographs of Mike, as I said, looking rather handsome in some camo gear, there was a website, and I believe it's AI generated because it seems to put together all sorts of ridiculous gobbledygook storylines, really. Nothing that you think, well, I don't believe that at all. But ever since that came out and said, oh, Mike is going to be becoming patron of the Invictus Games, a few people, it's gone like Chinese whispers, and now it almost seems to have a bit of credibility behind it. The Invictus Games have not said anything. Mike Tindall has not said anything. I sadly think that it is not true. I say sadly because I think Mike would be brilliant. He can't be a patron of it because the patron is the person that created it, or several patrons, as we know, despite Harry trying to rewrite that narrative. But Mike would be great as an ambassador because of his, his sporting history, his playfulness, much like David Beckham would have been a fantastic ambassador for the Invictus Games. But unfortunately, when Harry and Meghan left, well, I say unfortunately, let me rephrase that. When Harry and Meghan left and they were drawing up the negotiations with Megxit, they made it very, very clear that they wanted to be completely split from absolutely everything. The Invictus Games was to be theirs. Invictus is no longer linked to the Royal Foundation in any way or members of the royal family, hence why it is now little more than the Harry and Meghan show. So sadly, whilst I do think it would be quite fun and I think it would be a really positive boost for the Invictus Games, I don't believe it to be true. And Harry is never going to step down from the Invictus Games. He will never leave it. And it's going to continue to be run in the way that it has been in recent years. Apparently, veterans are unhappy with the way Meghan's involvement has changed the meaning of the games. Anyone who's spoken out, if you remember, there are a couple of Invictus staff in Canada that had spoken out about concerns. They subsequently got reshuffled or unemployed. It would seem from involving Netflix, from changing the charities' involvements, Harry does very much still have control of the Invictus Games. It has changed from a sporting event into a little more than a PR machine and a fashion show for Meghan, but Harry has no intentions of listening to anyone or standing down. As I said in yesterday's video, the Invictus Games is all that they have got left that is actually successful. It is the only thing that Harry can use that gives him some level of importance on a worldwide platform. The only reason why they're getting invites to go to Nigeria, as they did to Canada, where they're meeting other members of the royal family from other families, European families, meeting dignitaries and politicians, is purely to do with their links to the Invictus Games. Harry and Meghan are going to hang onto it tooth and nail, or should I say tooth and claws. They are not going to let it go, and Harry is always going to allow Meghan to wear the trousers in that relationship, unless she is, of course, marching in front of soldiers, where it looks more like she actually forgot to put them on that day. It's sad, but that's just the way the cookie is going to crumble until organisers and people higher up the top actually turn around and say Meghan needs to take more of a backseat. I still think that the games with Harry would still work because he does still have that bond with many members of the military. Not everybody approves of the things that he's done, the way he's treated Queen and country, but there is still so much that the Invictus Games could do, but they really do need to act soon, because I think another Invictus Games, like the last two have been, they are going to lose even more funding. And then there's only people that lose out in that, and that's the veterans and the families and all of the money that it should be raising to go towards fantastic causes. So guys, that's it for me on this video. I will be back with you tomorrow. I will be talking about other members, the real members of the royal family. We've got garden party pictures, and I will be bringing you some bright, cheery and colourful news. And I suppose we'll probably hear a little bit about what's happening in Nigeria. So take care for now. See you soon. Bye.